now. Listen up.
3, 2, 1.
It's showtime. That's great.
This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth right now.
Ooh.
That was the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it.
Hit it. It's time for Mac's World.
And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
Good afternoon. It is 3:07 on a Wednesday afternoon. This is Mac's World Live. I'm Chris Roloff filling in for J. Michael McCoy. The regular cast of characters are here. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat. He's here. He can take your text messages at 515-809-0993. Frank the Verse is here. Jebediah. I always want to say Springfield, but that's a Simpsons reference. I don't know how many people even know who Jebediah Springfield is. He's the namesake of Springfield from The Simpsons. It's true. Look it up. You can Google it. He's also here. Jeb will take your phone call if you call in at 515-244-0077. And our special guest in studio, normally on Tuesdays, but today on Wednesdays, Tom Coates. Tom, good to have you here.
Thank you, Chris. And we've shifted things around because we have a special guest on the line today.
We sure do. Tell us a little bit about our special guest, Tom.
Well, this man comes highly recommended by a gentleman in the Trump campaign, and his name is Ed, and the Ed is quite, I'm not even going to start to read Ed Timperlake's biography because it's too lengthy. But Ed has had early military experience. He was a Marine fighter pilot back in the day. He's moved up in areas of intelligence, and he's an author. I think that's maybe the thing we're going to try to hang our hats on today, ladies and gentlemen, is that Mr. Timperlake is an author of some note. He had a best-selling book some years ago called, appropriately, The Year of the Rat. Now, with all the questions about foreign and domestic money influencing then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and we're talking about not small dollars, guys, we're talking about tens of millions, it would be interesting to interview him now, who actually investigated the Clinton shady money connections in the past, going back into the 90s. Ed, are you with us? Can you hear me?
I'm with you, and I certainly can hear you. Thank you, sir, for the introduction.
Well, thank you for being with us today. Now, you've written a few other books, but the one we want to focus in on today and some of your background is, again, The Year of the Rat. I read some write-ups, some reviews of the book back then. It seemed, Ed, that you and your co-author were not trying to sell a point of view as much as you were showing the facts, that you had dug into and gotten facts of the cronyism of the Clintons that were being talked about last night's debate, which we'll talk about later, but goes clear back into Arkansas. Can you kind of give the audience at least a little flavor of what you found out with the Clinton connection with China back in the 90s?
Well, I certainly can. Thank you. And you nailed it. The book is not a polemic. We wrote it understanding we were going up against Clinton Inc., both Bill and Hillary, who, you get a mistake, they're coming after you and trying to discredit you. So we put 650 endnotes. It's almost a scholarly book. It is. It's got the title Year of the Rat, which was 1996, the year that all the money started coming in to accomplish victory for a second term by then Bill Clinton, president, and the first term, second term. All the Chinese money came in, and our goal was to look at the money in, well documented, and the favors out. Now, why? A lot of your listeners, my gosh, that's 20 years ago. What's this gentleman talking about? Well, in those days, we saw all the spies. They're collectors, actually. That's the term, but spies. And what they got was all the high-tech stuff they went after, better missiles, smaller warheads, stealth paint, stuff like that, high supercomputers, a lot of military stuff. Now, the reason why it's so relevant today is that the Chinese government, the People's Liberation Army, and that's generic for their Air Force, Navy, Marines, Second Artillery, improved. Everything they're fielding today is directly traceable to what they went after 20 years ago. I mean, you can just see it in the technology evolution of a modernized military. So the question for your listeners is very simple. We don't know, as you said, the order of magnitude of money that has come in to Secretary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation dwarfs what I found in the 90s. I mean, I guess we were looking at chump change compared to the amount of money they're getting now. And the bottom line is, 10, 20 years from now, what are our children, the millennials, what are they going to see as a result of what they've already given away or sold? Or the other part of taking money, you can always be extorted because it's criminal. So you're opening yourself up to both further bribery and extortion by bad people, and I did that when I looked at the Russian mob. That was my other case. So the bottom line is, I'm here to bear witness that the trend line, starting way back in Arkansas to the famous Clinton presidency of Chinese money to the Clinton Foundation today, is just nothing more than greed, corruption, and money in and favors out, and those favors out aren't necessarily helping America one bit. In fact, they're hurting us.
So, Ed, we did a show some weeks ago where I went into some detail with a guy that's the head of the county Democrat Party, and I went into some detail because I was a commodities broker back in the 70s and 80s about the cattle futures trading that Hillary engaged in with Revco and the $100,000 payoff from the company down there in Arkansas, and that was $100,000, which at that point was real money. Then later in the 90s, you're talking about millions of dollars. And of course, the price tag continues to go up. But in essence, the corruption and the crony politics that has gone on with this pair for decades hasn't changed a bit, has it?
No, sir. In fact, they are very smart that way. And you did take your reader back, or the listener, excuse me, back to the Arkansas days, then into my days, and then to today. They're very clever in one respect, and it's a magic way in which they really do survive. They control law enforcement. Bill Clinton was first Attorney General of Arkansas, then the governor, so obviously he wasn't going to be investigated in the cattle futures you're talking about. Then he had the Attorney General, Janet Reno. I was very close to Louis Freeh, Director Freeh. He used to come into our office on the Hill. I worked for the chairman of the Rules Committee, the most senior committee, the Speakers Committee, and every so often Chairman Solomon, he didn't direct me, the director didn't come to see me, he came in to see the chairman. And he was a man that was tortured because he was watching the Attorney General not prosecute cases. And then lo and behold, now your listeners can see the direct violation of the law in the national security side of it with the famous servers that Hillary Clinton used. I had my last job. I was the Defense Department liaison to the National Counterintelligence Executive Committee, co-chaired by the FBI. That was my job. And I don't care what they say or how they spin it or in the debate what they're complaining about. If any of my friends in the Naval Academy or Marines or today did what Hillary Clinton did with her server, they would do jail time.
Which is what Mike Pence said last night. Right now, Frank, you had a quick question for Ed?
Yeah, Ed, this is Frank. I was just wondering. I mean, we've seen the precedent set down in the 8 years that Bill was in office. We saw the Lincoln bedroom for sale. We saw the pardons for sale, and we saw the rides on Air Force One. Is there any reason to believe that it won't be more of the same? Keeping in mind, if she's president, she will build a library, and she will not deny any money, foreign or domestic, to any fundraising to raise money for that library. So don't you think it's just going to be a continuation of what went on in the 90s?
Of course it is. In fact, you just have to go to the debate, and when it was national security, I'm talking about the presidential debate between Mr. Trump and Secretary Clinton. When they asked a national security question, Donald Trump went right to nuke missiles and the nuke threat, and he got that right. I'll listen to your listeners can go right to what Secretary Clinton said, which was the Iranian deal. She defended it. She waded into it. She justified it. Well, I will make a prediction, and this is a prediction now, but $150 billion is going to flow into Iran, in addition to the 1-point-something billion in cash that got the hostages out, with shame. But here's the point. $150 billion hitting Iran will improve their military, just like China, will destabilize the Middle East, will put Israel at great risk, of course, Europe, and eventually America. But it's a lot of money to throw back at America to pay off people that cut the deal. So there is a huge potential for further influence of money and extortion if she puts the for sale sign up by all kinds of countries, Iran included.
Well, okay, you're an expert, Ed. Let me ask you. Kane kept saying repeatedly that the Iranian deal was going to deny Iran the nuclear weapon. In your professional opinion, is that true? And if it's not, when approximately do you think they would have nuclear arms capability?
Well, there's one element they admit to, which in 10 years there's no more safeguards. Iran will get a nuke. Everybody agrees. Republican, Democrats, Secretary Kerry, Clinton, Donald Trump. I don't trust Iran as far as I can throw them. I happen to be very good friends with a fellow named Terry Anderson. Some of the older people remember he was a Beirut hostage. Terry is a very liberal fellow, and he was captured by Hezbollah and held. Ronald Reagan got him out. Terry, who is very liberal, hates the Iranians because they just cheat. They lie and cheat, and the minute the deal was signed and the money started arriving, you can look at their literature. They're still saying death to America, death to Israel. So how can you possibly trust a country that will agree not to do something, and then the minute you do it, he said give money, show that they're going to break it by improving their missile technology, so they go offline. I have no hope that the path they chose that will ever stop Iran from getting a bomb. The question is, how fast will they get it, and what will Israel do first?
Ed Timperlake is our guest. He's the author of Year of the Rat. He took an very in-depth look at the mid-'90s when Bill Clinton was in charge of the United States, the financial dealings of the Clintons, and especially their ties with China. This came up in the vice presidential debate just last night when Mike Pence brought this up. And we're going to continue to talk with Ed Timperlake when we come back right here on Max World Live on 99.3 FM The Truth. Frank is here, Bob is here, Jeb is here, I'm Chris Roloff, and Tom Coates is here, but most importantly, you're with us. Stick around, we've got a lot more coming up.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
21 minutes past the top of the hour. Here on Max World Live, I'm Chris Roloff, filling in for J. Michael McCoy. The rest of the regular cast of characters are here. And, just for lunch today, I got the incredible opportunity to have lunch with a lot of businessmen and women here in the Des Moines metro area as we begin to relaunch and revision a Christian business network here in Des Moines as we look to the future. I think, I don't know, I had a good time casting an exciting vision. And one of the people that was at this lunch today was a guy that you know very well, and that's Seth Walker. He's a real estate agent here that we talk about quite a bit. He's Max Real Estate Agent. Seth Walker was with us at the lunch today. And the one thing that everybody will probably notice is he was the guy with the crutches. If you didn't get a chance to say hi to Seth, he had actually kind of, for lack of a better word, blown out his knee almost completely and he was in a full leg cast all the way up to his hip, and now he's doing much better now, so he was limping along and was happy to make it out to the lunch. So, again, we just want to ask you to continue to pray for Seth Walker's continued recovery. He's with RE/MAX Real Estate. He's a great real estate agent, fellow believer, very down-to-earth guy, and Mac has done a lot of business transactions with Seth and highly recommends him. If you want to call Seth Walker, Frank says you should call 515-577-3728. It's 515-577-3728 to get in touch with Seth Walker. Hey, Seth, we hope you get to feeling better. Well, here on Max World today, we've got Ed Timperlake. He is the author of Year of the Rat. This is a book that talks a little bit about the Clintons in the 90s, specifically Bill Clinton, and how, I want to say sarcastically, how good he was with money. But maybe that's not all sarcastic. He definitely knew how to leverage money for his own gain. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're learning about all this that was going on. Tom Coates is with us, and I'm going to pass it over to Tom and continue to chat with Ed, who continues to be on the phone with us here at 99.3.
Well, as a further area of introduction, Ed was a Marine fighter pilot. He graduated from the Senior Officer Top Gun course. He was awarded some medals over in Vietnam. Ed, it says that you're a life member of Disabled American Veterans. Are you disabled in some fashion?
Yes, sir. 3 things very bad happened to me. I was in the jungle bombing the Khmer Rouge. My medals were I've been there medals, and I got very sick from jungle water, and it took out my eye and hurt my liver badly, and it's been a lifelong problem for me. But earlier than that, I was at 500 feet in a jet when the sucker decided to explode on me, and I ejected and jammed the heck out of my hand, wound up in a fireball, managed to get out of it. So the American people, under Abraham Lincoln's great second inaugural establishing the VA to care for him who was born in the battle, his widow, and orphan, they took care of me, and I joined the DAV to fight for veterans' causes and veterans' rights to this day. But yeah, I got banged up a little bit. I have no complaints. I had the greatest time of my life flying for the Marine Corps. I do every day. I wouldn't trade a single day of my life for a single day of Bill Clinton's life.
Well, God bless you for your service, Ed. We appreciate having you on, and Frank's raising his hand. He's got a question.
Hey, Ed, also, thanks for your service. Sounds like you've been through a lot. What would be your opinion on our Senator Trader John Kerry, who basically acknowledged that this money that's given to Iran will be used for terrorism against Israel and our country?
I guess the best you could say is he's really dumb, but he's honest. How do you explain this deal? I look at the Iranian deal as simply a negotiated surrender to Iran by the administration, and they don't know what they're going to do with this as far as any safeguards and protecting Israel and the Middle East. It could unleash a major race for weapons there. The religious aspects of this thing are horrible also. I went to Iraq. I was assigned as an investigator to go out and look at all the weapons, not the WMD stuff, but the conventional weapons that Saddam Hussein had bought in the Oil for Food or Oil for Weapons program. And the bottom line is that Iraq was just awash in weapons, and the mortal enemy was Iran. And now the Iranians are dominating that part of the world, and ISIS is out there. The Turkish border is destabilized. Syria is a mess. The whole world has melted down in crisis after crisis after crisis, thanks to the bad stewardship of the president, his Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, and now his Secretary of State, John Kerry. He was in the Navy. I mean, John served, and I can't figure this out. It amazes me that they would be so blind. I don't know if it's ideological or what, but it's a mystery to me, but it's so bad.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up on that very thing, because it always plays on my mind. There are people that come in, and we've had them on this show, that say that Obama is incompetent. But I look at the situation, and he's not a stupid man. He's got a relatively high IQ. Just listen to him, he'll tell you that. So is it incompetence? Is it the incompetence of he and the people that he surrounds himself with, so he can be the smartest guy in the room? Or is it something more sinister? Is there an intent here to put this country in the position that he's put us into?
Oh, I would argue on your side of the agenda, the latter. It is he's not incompetent at all. In fact, he's accomplished a lot of his goals. He's a very competent gentleman if you consider where he's going and what he wanted to do when he was sworn in, to where he wanted to be now. I think it was masterful the way he orchestrated all this stuff. So I don't think this is an accident. I think this was by design, whether it's he believes that colonial America, taking over the world is a very bad thing based on legendary discussions he may have had growing up. I don't know. But the bottom line is, if anyone could set out to hurt us as badly as someone like him in his position of power, the results are horrible. For example, I engaged with the Kurds. I was in Iraq, right? And I've talked to the gentleman running the Christian Kurdish relief effort. He's a good man, a very good man. They brought in all the different Christian denominations from the Middle East into a conference. And if you look at the way in which refugees are coming out of Syria and from that part of the world, it's like 99.9% Islamic and 1% Christians. The Christians are being wiped out in Iraq as we talk. The reason why I say that is Kurdistan is where they've been beat up very badly by history. The poor Kurds have just been kicked around so bad that they've decided they will be a refuge and a safe haven for anyone that can get into their borders. Christians welcome. And they appealed for weapons, and they're getting just enough for self-defense, but no more. And they're hanging on by a toehold. And the bottom line is, I can't explain when you see all the Christian villages being put to the sword, literally, and none of the refugees coming out of the Middle East are Christian.
Yeah, it's amazing. Frank, you've got a question?
Hey, Ed, I don't know if you heard last night, but Sheriff Clinton and Deputy Kane are on the job. They're, in town.
Yes, sir.
And their plan to fight ISIS is a pretty tough plan. They killed bin Laden. That's their plan. So those people in Orlando, I guess, they don't need, the gays in Orlando don't need to fear because we killed bin Laden. But what is your opinion? It's come to my attention that Obama actually created ISIS. Trump may be right in that they were using ISIS they were funding ISIS weapons to overthrow Assad in Syria because my information tells me that Russia has one Navy port left in the Mediterranean, and it was in Syria, and we were out to take out their Navy port. And Obama had to go back and ask Congress for permission to do this because I think Putin basically put him in his place and punked him out. But that's how, in my opinion, ISIS started. Is that how it started? And do we have a Frankenstein that we need to, sometimes we create Frankensteins, and now we need to actually take our creation out? You're exactly right. I was there when the initial problems were identified. I tried to stop them with a team. I'm not the greatest guy in the world. I just was part of a team that tried to stop it. And what happened was that they installed a very corrupt leader in Iraq, of all places, who was just on one side of the Sunni-Shia divide. He decided he would totally get revenge. Saddam Hussein was Sunni, and this gentleman was Shia, and he decided, I don't want to go into a big religion thing here, but he decided he would just, as you say, beat up. Well, lo and behold, some of the ISIS fighters saw the opportunity to take advantage of the oppression and have a grievance.
and they just took the Quran to the ultimate extreme, and they fostered a form of war, which is terror war in a way. Information war as terrorism, or terrorism as information war, because they're so brutal, they scared everybody, and they made sure you know it. And the administration, that's on the administration's head right now. They saw this. They saw this brutality, and they went ahead anyway, because it was right there. It was a very little nugget of ISIS, and they pulled the American troops out. They had an excuse, status of forces, but that's not true. They promised to get out, and they did, because in their mind, Iraq was the bad war and Afghanistan was the good war. And they decided that's what Obama campaigned on. And by pulling out the way he did, turning a blind eye to Syria the way he did, you're right about the port. Russia has had a traditional port in Syria. They also went for an airfield, which they now have too. So not only did they create ISIS, but they put a tremendous nature of different militaries, highly armed, in the Middle East. And then, get this, I'll give you the listeners two bad bungles. They created a rebel army to fight in Syria, our side. The CIA created one, and CENTCOM, the area of responsibility in the military, created another. Ironically, it didn't stop those two freedom-fighting forces from shooting each other. That was a bit of a blunder. And then they called in, it's a true story, they called in the head of CENTCOM, a four-star Army general. Congress had given that gentleman $500 million to do something about it. He had spent $40-some-odd million. They called him in, General, what did you do? How many troops have you found to fight to stop all this stuff? Well, I've trained 4 or 5. He said that. Well, my argument is, you spend $40-some-odd million, and you don't even know it's 4 or 5. Invite him to lunch, General, and count how many place settings you put out.
Well, was we correct in the media hearing that there was a comment basically made that ISIS was too radical for even Al-Qaeda?
Yeah. Oh no. We had no debate on that. They are really bad people. And here's the real problem. You touched on it. They don't care. They'll stone women. They will brutally, they rape. The Christian women over there are at great risk. The girls, they'll throw gays off the roof. They take great delight in the purification of their religion because homosexuality is a bad thing to them. So they take people and throw them off the roof or burn them to death. They have fun doing that in their own macabre way. So Al-Qaeda's looking at them going, oh, man, if you want to talk about branding, you guys are really branding as bad guys. Gets worse, though.
Well, Ed, let me interrupt you. We had a situation in Orlando not long ago with one Muslim that went into a gay nightclub, murdered an awful lot of people. You would think that might, in fact, the father of the perpetrator later went to a Hillary Clinton meeting. You would think that a big part of the Democratic Party is the gay lobby. And you would think they might start to wake up that the risk isn't with conservative Christians, it's with the Muslims. And Hillary Clinton, if she's elected and does what she wants to do, will jump the number up to 1 million more Syrian refugees in her first 4 years. Give me your thoughts on that.
I could not agree with you more. For shame, for shame, for shame, having that dad in the picture behind her, because we were talking about signals and images. And you're exactly right. The homosexual community in America has finally emerged out, and in a way that they're getting widely accepted. The fights are out there, and Donald Trump has no problem with that. I mean, he's in the hotel industry. I'm sure he employs a lot. But to embrace that gentleman and the murderous ideology of ISIS, I cannot conceive of why anyone would vote on that line of the party in America because of the nature of who they're embracing and the terms of the engagement, putting the dad in the picture. It's horrible. So for shame on them.
Ed Timperlake is our guest here on Max World Live on 99.3 FM. Tom Coates is here. Frank the Verse is here. Bob is here, Jeb is here, and I'm here, and you are going to stick with us, and we're going to continue to talk with Ed Timperlake on 99.3 FM.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
This is Max World Live on 99.3 FM, The Truth. So what do you think about the elections? They're coming up. You know, we're just a little over 30 days away from the elections themselves. And our good friends of the Family Leader want to remind you, as we're regularly reminded, if you have the If 714 app on your phone, you get those text messages just like I do every day, 7:14 in the morning and 7:14 at night. In fact, when I'm hanging out with my family, my phone will buzz and I go, oh, it must be 7:14 on the dot, and I'll remember. It's time to pray for our country. The good folks at the Family Leader are reminding us to focus for 40. It's hashtag focus, the number 440 right now for us to pray between now and Election Day for our country. Not just for wisdom on who we might vote for, but really for our country as a whole. We have to go to God Almighty. We have to go to the Lord on this. We need His guidance. We need His protection on our country. Go to if714.com, sign up for those email and text alerts, and you can download the app if714.com. Give you helpful tips on how to pray. Chris Roloff filling in for J. Michael McCoy here on Max World Live. Tom Coates is in studio with us. Frank is in studio with us. And Ed Timperlake is on the phone. And we're talking politics today. And, you know, in the break, we talked a little bit about this. Last night was the vice presidential debates between Tim McCain and Mike Pence. And I have to say this. Tim McCain looked like a silly person. And is that a nice way of saying that? I mean, he just really came off foolish. And one of the things that I thought was very shallow and disingenuous is when we talked about refugees, people coming, immigration into this country, he said, well, we're just going to find out who the dangerous ones are. That was his screening test. And I imagine Senator Kaine standing at the border saying, Are you dangerous? No? Okay, come on in. Are you dangerous? No? Okay, come on in. That's not much of a plan, but Frank, you had some thoughts on this as well.
Well, Ed, the Democratic plan to stop quote-unquote homegrown terrorism is basically they're acknowledging we know who these people are. The spy agencies have been watching these people. Several of these radicalized terrorists that have been homegrown, their fathers have turned them in, that they've made trips back to their homelands, they've been radicalized. We just need to stop them from getting guns. We know who they are. Let's just stop them from getting guns. Now, on the contrast, Donald Trump says that we need to have extreme vetting, and the Democrats slam him that, well, your extreme vetting wouldn't stop these homegrown terrorists. So rather than to detain, deport, whatever, we're just going to stop them from getting guns. What is your thoughts on that? Is that just a lunacy for a plan to stop terrorism in our country?
It's beyond lunacy. It is national suicide in a way, and it's really ugly. When I went to Iraq, I was a senior guy. I was doing an IG team, and as I said, I went all over the country. But when you get there, you get a country brief. They tell you what the lay of the land is and how to protect yourself. And I went out there and engaged. But the direct briefing, which I believe to this day is when you see a lot of people, Islamic religion, in a room with you in a combat situation, believe that 10% of them would want to kill you if they could get away with it. And tragically, you have to be very careful. Now, these are people that are screened, mind you, that it's called green on blue violence. My daughter's husband did a tour in Afghanistan, same briefing, and I asked him, what was it like? And he said, I had to keep one eye out against the Taliban and one eye on the Afghan soldier next to me. So the bottom line is, I have no idea what they're talking about. This hollow, hot air, as Donald Trump says, all words, no actions, and no validity in the ability to do it. This screening process that the Democrats arm wave over is nothing more than eyewash and will get a lot of people killed. There's one kind of element into this that I'm very strong on, and you should read today's headlines. ISIS has put out an edict, use knives, take knives, get knives, stab people with knives. They tend to like that stuff. Well, here's the deal. We have a Second Amendment. And I went to the Naval Academy, and there was a great Naval Academy science fiction writer, Robert Heinlein. He was a midshipman and then a naval officer, and he wrote many books. But his great quote was, an armed society is a polite society. So I'm very happy that the American Second Amendment is alive, and guns are not an instrument of it. It hurts people. Crazy people with guns can hurt people. I get that. But the bottom line is, America is a country with a frontier ethic. I mean, you guys are out there, and further west than I am on the East Coast, and you all know how the country really is a country of decent, sane people who will rise to the challenge and protect themselves. Why you would let in a 10% factor, independent of everything you say about screening? Remember, the people that were in the room with me were screened, and they still believe that 10% of them would try and kill me if they could figure out how to do it. So I have no use for any of this. It's just national insanity if this immigration process is allowed to continue under Hillary Clinton. I just don't understand it, and that is one of the issues of the choice in the ballot box coming up. It's that important.
Well, Ed, we appreciate that. I want to flip back for just a second. You were talking at one point about the arming of ISIS. Now, one of the things that did not come up on the debate last night, and I was surprised, and I'm kind of suspicious because there were some perfect openings, and Pence never went there, and that's the issue of Libya, Benghazi, which Hillary puffed up what little chest she has and took credit for that at one point, said, this is my policy in Libya. How much information do you have on that the people that were remaining, and they kept asking for more and more security, and it was ignored? By one count, it was like 600 different emails went to the State Department begging them for additional security, that they were remaining there to facilitate the arms transfer to ISIS. What do you know about that?
I know a lot about it, and the Benghazi thing was an offshoot of a total breakdown of strategic judgment at Secretary Clinton's level. It was Ambassador Wright, NSC Director, and Samantha Power, the Honorable Samantha Power, our ambassador to the UN, and Hillary Clinton. The three of them were really, really motivating Odyssey Dawn, the attack to take out Gaddafi. Gaddafi was a bad guy, by the way, but he had turned. He was crazy. I know people that actually know him. And he decided he would cast his lot into America, so he stripped his country of nukes. The one thing he didn't do, though, is he was like Saddam Hussein and collected weapons. These guys love weapons, and he collected what they call man pads, which are the handheld missiles that'll take down airliners. And he had about 20,000 of them. So Gaddafi has this huge armory of weapons. And lo and behold, Odyssey Dawn comes along, and Hillary, as you say, cackles over his death. Well, all of a sudden then, we are worried. We're trying to collect the weapons, and that's what that station was doing, was collecting weapons for a variety of purposes. I knew some of the SEALs. And the bottom line was they weren't protected. The ambassador shows up on a spur of the moment. That kind of caught people by surprise, the timing. But he's there, and there's no real protection. The movie has it right. That movie is so good.
Great movie.
Famous.
Great
13
movie.
hours. It's brilliant. So the bottom line is you have this terrible problem in which everybody's exposed, and you'll see the movie, and the outcome is the death. So Hillary Clinton is the direct architect of this whole thing. Now, the issue of weapons to ISIS, well, some of the weapons that ISIS got, they didn't really need to ship it out of Benghazi. Maybe they were for rebel purposes. The reason why is ISIS overran the Iraqi weapons that I had found. I actually kind of got a little bit yelled at when I said that, well, it looks like the Army, and I don't mean this pejoratively, but it looks like the Army Quartermaster Corps, our guys, by arming the Iraqi army, really gave the weapons to ISIS because they were overrun and they threw down their weapons. And ISIS got tanks and everything else. So the whole bazaar of weapons in the Middle East flowed into ISIS. But here's the scary part. ISIS then returned the favor and took over Libya. It's now an ISIS nation. There's no such thing as a nation state of ISIS, but they control most of it. And they got the man pads. And that's one of the most scary weapons to go out there, independent of just the Middle East. And I'm praying, and that station in Benghazi was trying to buy and destroy man pads. That's one of their missions, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's where they were going. They wanted to roll over them in Jeeps, and they were doing that, or Humvees, or whatever they
So
call.
is those man pads the ones that basically follow the heat trail of 747s or whatever? So
Any
that
airplane in the sky that puts out a heat signature, these weapons are so good that 12 to 15,000 feet even now, some of the older ones, 10,000, 8,000 feet, they get a heat source, a buzz, it's an IR sensor, and the thing just takes off and blows the airplane away. I'll give you a very specific example. I flew against them.
And we're gonna have to have you give us that example when we come right back. I want to hear it. I really do.
Sure.
Rub against those hard breaks. You know, these guys pay my bills. They make sure that.
No, sir, absolutely.
You know how that is. You know how that is. Hey, Ed Timperlake is our guest. He is with us. So is Tom Coates, and Frank is here on 99.3 FM. The Truth. This is Max World Live. Stick with us.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
10 minutes before the top of the hour in Salem Radio Network News will update us on what's going on. Hey, just a reminder, please continue to pray for all of our friends on the East Coast, especially those in South Carolina along Florida, as Hurricane Matthew continues to head their way. I've got friends and family. The Truth Network has a radio station in South Carolina that's kind of in the direct path of this. So our company is definitely taking actions and being prepared for that. I'm sure Salem Radio Network News is going to let us know what's going on with that as well. This is Max World Live on 99.3 FM. Tom Coates is here, Frank is here, and Ed Timperlake is on the phone with us.
The Honorable Ed Timperlake.
The very honorable. Sir, we have really, really been enjoying your time with us. We've got about 8 minutes left, but right before we went to break, sir, you were telling us a story about these man pads, and we were trying to figure out during the break here. Tell us a little bit. Describe these rockets for us. Frank seems that are these shoulder carried rockets?
Yes, they are. They're shoulder mounted. They have an IR sensor, which means infrared. They go for heat, and they have a warhead capable of going up the engine tailpipe and blowing up the engine, thereby taking the airplane out. I started by saying I flew against them when I was trying to bomb the Khmer Rouge. Very briefly, I got real sick, as I described. And then the war ended, and the Khmers killed everybody in Cambodia in the killing fields. But in those days, it was first-generation man pads, and I could stay out of their envelope with an F-4. I was an F-4 pilot, by popping chaff and flares, going 450 knots and pulling 4 Gs, so the thing wouldn't get, and staying high. However, we warned the Israelis, and in the Yom Kippur War, they had 52 A-4s taken out by man pads. That's how dangerous they are. And they got better and better and better. Now, when I went back into Iraq, we had the backup for the Ministry of Transportation, and sure enough, a DC-8 took off, and a MAD pad blew the engine out. Fortunately, it had 3 other engines, and it came back safely. These things are very, very deadly, and they will take down airplanes, light civils, helicopters, and jets, especially commercial. They have countermeasures, very expensive, but they do. I want to say something that really sticks with me. Going into Iraq, the great heroes, unsung heroes, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, my fellow Marines, but the National Guard, both ground and air, yeoman service, a lot of them fly C-130s, and they have to do combat landings. They corkscrew in. They went out to the end of the runway. They'd run their engines up 2-3 times to pretend they're taking off to see if any bad person would stick, oh, here he comes, well, let's shoot him first. And the whole idea was the National Guard has covered themselves in unsung glory for the entire engagement in both Iraq and Afghanistan. My daughter's husband was in the Guard. He was an MP with the D.C. Guard, of all places. Now he's Californian. He's down in Gitmo, by the way. Surfs up. But the bottom line is the American military rose to the challenge, and we know what to do. Unfortunately, these weapons, the commercial airline industry, it'll just take one, and the insurance rates will go up. People will be worried about flying, and they're loose because Hillary Clinton, ready, fire, aim, going into Odyssey Dawn in Libya, did not secure the man pads. They didn't bomb the facilities. They didn't think through it. And they tried to get in later, as you said, as we discussed. They didn't get them. So the question is, who's sitting on these weapons and what are they going to do with them? And there's scary stuff.
Hey, Ed, I got a question about Obama, but let me just ask you really quick. Is the Stingers the same thing as these man pads?
Yeah, exactly. Stellas, Stringers, all of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They have mounted on trucks at times. The first ones were called the SA-7, and they just got better and better and better and better and better. And we gave them in Charlie Wilson's War. If you ever saw that movie.
Yeah, so another good movie.
Let me ask you this. Take you back to, when Obama was wanting to he drew the red line with Bashar Assad, and you can't cross this line, and then he, redrew several lines after that, and Assad crossed them all. And but let me ask you, why do you believe he had to come back to our Congress? Putin basically punked him out, sent him back to our Congress with his leg between his legs, because Putin was going to go in and broker the deal with Syria and leave Assad in power. What was that all about, and why did... Give us the information that you know of why Obama backed down and Putin brokered the deal to keep Assad in power.
Well, the dilemma, and it's often lost on a lot of American politicians even, Assad, as bad as he is the legitimate head. He's an illegitimate, killer, but he's the legitimate head of a thuggish government. But he's the guy. I mean, it's his government. And he invited Russia in. He did. He invited him in, as you say, for the port and an airfield. In doing so, he gave the world a dilemma. It's easy to say no-fly zone, but if you were to put aircraft over Syria and engage without any authority, it's an act of war. Because George Bush knew that for Desert Storm. You need UN authority or a formal declaration of some sort to justify it. By just going in with an arm wave to put down the connection between the Russian Air Force and the head of Syria with military might is stepping. And ironically, and I hate to say this, they have more principle to stand on than the people trying to shoot them down. And in doing so, you have to be prepared for the consequences. So they didn't prepare to do this correctly. They easily could have gone to the UN and made a case. Had they made the case, have at it, get safe zones like Donald Trump wants, and do it right. But and Putin saw this, and he just called Obama's bluff, and the rest is history. It is horrible, and they walked themselves into a situation when they tried, as I said earlier, to create freedom fighters, and the freedom fighters starting shooting each other because you can't trust who you're paying money to, or you couldn't even pay enough money to buy an army of 4 people for $40 million. So the bottom line is it's been a portrait of ineptitude and bungling, and Putin, who has unity of purpose, I mean, he's a harsh guy, but he keeps his focus. A person like that was Assad, who's a killer, has the ability to kind of push the people who are lurching through without coherence, Hillary, and Kerry now, Secretary Kerry, and Obama, and just lead them around by the nose. It will take a major reset, not this famous Russian reset that Hillary did, but a reset if Donald Trump is president, to come to grips with the reality of the situation, follow the principles of international law, and solve the problem. I think he's capable of doing it. I think he's capable of getting a team to do it. I think he's capable of getting the generals to do it, and I think he knows a vision. But that's the one thing I will also give him credit for. I'm a real supporter of Donald Trump in one way. The man is intellectually honest. It gets him in trouble. A question, he's going to give you the answer, and sometimes he bungles it. But he's an intellectually honest man, and he doesn't make it up as he goes along. He learns as he goes. And I think not telling ISIS exactly how he's going to attack them, how he's going to get sanctuaries, how he's going to save the world from by stopping ISIS is probably prudent at this point. Because Hillary can't do that.
Ed, thank you very much. And by the way, besides the book, he co-authored the Year of the Rat. He's also written 2 others, Red Dragon Rising back in 2002, and the most recent one, Showdown, Why China Wants War with the United States.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Do I have another minute, or is it over?
We're kind of out of time, Ed, but Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. It was actually a wonderful privilege to talk from you. Riveting. We learned a ton. We look forward to having you back on.
I guess we're off here. Let me give you one point.
No, we're not quite off the air yet.
Not quite, Ed.
Not quite off the air. Yeah. But you hang tight with us. Next hour, we're going to take a break, hit Salem Radio Network News. They're going to update us a little bit. And then we're going to hear from Pastor James Weaver of New Hope Assembly of God Church right here in Urbandale. We're going to be talking about a conference that many of us need to consider attending, Breaking the Bonds, talking about sexual addiction and pornography addiction in the United States and how devastating it really is. Thanks for listening to 99.3 FM, The Truth.